of Trustees video conference meeting, April 21, 2020. We're starting at about 7:07. All of you have the agenda that I sent out earlier. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So moved.
I'll motion.
Okay. I think we had, sounded like Linda and then Jim Lloyd, I think. Any questions about any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. I'm going to make the president's report really quick, obviously, because these meetings can go on way too long, and they're not my favorite anyway, but we'll do that as best we can. We are starting this summer, I guess, without any other way to say it. Saturday.
Jim, sorry to interrupt you.
Pardon?
If you're not speaking, can you mute your line? That would be great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. So we're going to start with, we've had the discussions and the proposal that Sue Pyle and the Lakes Committee developed for the boat launch. I know it's somewhat controversial. Have a lot of trepidation about it myself, but I don't see that there's any problems with their plan as long as people behave in accordance with the plan. It depends upon that. So I know I've talked to Susan and so is Linda, and she's going to try her best to have signs and talk to everybody beforehand. Everybody has the paperwork and their understanding in place. So we're going to try to go forward with it this Saturday with the idea. I mean, one concern is waiting to see what the new rules would be, but I guess in my evaluation, I'm not sure the rules would get as specific to have any major effect upon what we're going to do this Saturday. So I think we're going to go forward with it. Everybody, the weather looks like it shouldn't be terrible. So cross your fingers and let's hope that goes. Other than that, I think, it's a trying time and we're going to continue to have to work this stuff out. Hopefully that's going to be shorter duration than longer duration, but I don't see any real alternative to just plugging it along and trying to keep the line of communications open. This will be available for everybody to see on the web as soon as we're finished, and then we'll go there. And I think all of us need to essentially just keep your ear to the ground and listen to people, and please share as you're hearing more information from them. And with that, I'll stop. Again, as Andy said, we have to be somewhat careful when we talk between muting and getting extraneous noise in here because it makes it hard. But anyway, thanks everybody, appreciate it. And with that, Andy, do you have any correspondence to read?
Thank you.
I do not.
No correspondence. I don't have the minutes in front of me from last month. Usually we have them. I read them when we printed them, and I did not have any objections. Do we need to be more formal than that? What do you think, Greg? Do we need to be more formal or what?
No, if everybody says they read them, we're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah. And our last meeting was February 17th.
That is correct. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes, or do we want to do that later on an e-vote? I can do it either way.
Move we accept the minutes.
You move to accept the minutes.
I'll
Second by
that.
Annie. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any negative votes? Anybody say no? All right, the motion carries to adopt the minutes.
Second, Jim Lloyd, you're muted. You have to unmute yourself before you speak. And then say aye or nay.
Okay. All righty. I said yes on everything.
Okay, cool.
Okay, very good. Tim Weibel, the manager or the treasurer's report, please.
Yes, I sent that to all of you yesterday, I believe, but the balance in the Denton County National Bank as of March 31st, 2020 was 341.01. Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Annie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Anyone opposed? None opposed? The motion carries. Tim, do you have any other information to report?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Do you have anything else you want to say? Okay, if you don't have anything else you want to say, I'm ready to move on. I just wanted to make sure I didn't cut you off or that you didn't
Nope,
have
I'm good.
your microphone. I just want to make sure you didn't have your microphone muted and you were saying something. So thank you very much. With that, we will go on to the management committee report. Jim Kirk.
Good evening. Clubhouse open for business today. I have at least one exclamation after that. They can do carry out only, but the process has been put in place to keep customers and employees in compliance with state of Ohio guidelines. I was hoping that Chris would text me with how I did in sales today. They were pretty busy in time for this report, but I haven't seen a text yet. Secondly, the members' donations to the Save Our Security Fund resulted in pledges of over $30,000 to date. Next, March's numbers. Hideaway Hills all accounts showed a gain of $87,427 compared to 19's gain of $68,210. This was due to lodge closed, also reduction in payroll costs due to no overtime for snow removal. The lodge lost $4,560 compared to last year. It lost $14,567. This year's loss included ongoing expenses of utilities, which will always be there, along with expense from February's comedy night, which didn't get included in February's financials. Lastly, on the numbers, the clubhouse lost $7,475 compared to last year's loss of $1,909. But keep in mind that the clubhouse closed on March 16th, COVID-19. Next, on January 17th, we were $285,236.28 behind in funding accounts. As of April 14th, we are $250,250.40 behind. The accounts include amenities, capital, depreciation, employee insurance, and roads. So in 3 months, we've caught up 35 grand or a little over 12 grand a month. In the case of capital and depreciation, this catch up is towards a goal that really needs to be reevaluated as both are too low to handle our existing and future needs. But January, February, March, we were able to, actually it would have been February, March, we were able to catch up over 12,000 a month. We're sticking to the budget pretty well. Next point, we have a problem with deer population in Hideaway Hills. We've had ODNR wildlife experts over the years observe our low browse as an indicator of the problem, and it's getting worse. We opened dialogue with ODNR about reversing the trend, and their first comment was to get people to stop feeding the deer. So we sent an e-blast out strongly recommending members quit feeding deer. Hopefully, we don't have to take further steps. We have received, by the deadline of last Friday, 6 resumes for the management committee opening, and we are setting up the interviews, which will probably be next Tuesday. We'll have a short meeting and then we'll go into executive session and we'll interview the 6 people that sent their resumes in. That's all I got. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, Jim, when you're reporting on the funding of the fund accounts, and you said we made up 35,000, how have we done since January? Not the makeup. Let's say you said you were at 0 in January. How much of the funding that we need to do every month have we made since January?
towards 2020, zero. We're still making up the 2019.
Okay, but that's I'm sorry, that confuses me. I don't care about the makeup. Forget the makeup. What are we doing this year? Are we staying where we ought to be? How much do we need to fund every month?
I don't, let me see. I think I got it laying here. All right, since January 17th, we have made 4 payments to the amenities fund, 5 payments into the capital fund, 4 into depreciation, and 3 into employee insurance, and 3 into roads.
I don't know if we want to.
Does that answer your question, Greg?
Yeah, it gives me a better sense, yes.
I guess to kind of tie on to that, we talked in February about reporting on the balance of these funds. What do we need to do to make that happen?
Yeah, Penny, the spreadsheet she sends out, I guess it has a balance. I'm not sure where it's at. I can get it for you. I'll get it from her tomorrow and send it out to everybody.
I guess I'm more interested in it being in the echo so members know the balance of these funds. It's a big part of us sending the message on why we need to look at an assessment increase.
Okay.
If they can see, I mean, they see them in bits and pieces here and there. Well, they see some of them in bits and pieces in Gary's communication, but I think it'd be best if we consolidated it all in that one spot in the echo so they can see, you know, that overarching balance of all the accounts that we already report, and then
Well, I think
each individual fund.
we can put the amenities fund balance, but we also need to put where it should be at this time. Because it's going to be, $130,000 or something like that. But
Yeah, I agree with that.
It should probably be almost 180,000 or 200,000.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I asked last time, we talked about putting a goal for all the funds, but I don't think we have goals for all of the funds. So, like at this point, I'm willing to showing the balance of those accounts so people are aware of it.
And we do need to adjust a couple of the goals. We have goals for all of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think Jim Sigafus was a little concerned about the goals and wanted a little more discussion in the management committee. Was my recollection of the dialogue we had on that.
You're right. And then it was basically on depreciation, capital, and employee, because I guess there isn't a goal in writing for the employee insurance fund. Randy, we need to put that on the agenda for next Tuesday night. Anything else?
Yeah, are you fully staffed for the clubhouse for what we're going to be doing it?
Well, we have enough staff. We only have 4 that were working there. We have 1 who has expressed concern about coming until the state raises says we can fully. So Chris says there'll be a little bit of overtime from Chris, but there'll be 3 of them running it until such time as we open back up fully. They've got it handled. They're there at all times because they want a runner to go out to the cars and back and that sort of thing, so that there's nobody else in the building other than the 2 employees.
Jim, is there any, with the cost of gasoline being as low as it is, Is there any way that we can capitalize on that? And do we have any storage tanks or anything to maybe buy some gas now to save us in the long run?
Randy, that'd be a question for you.
We don't have any extra storage tanks. What we have is they fill it as needed.
Would now be a good time to have them fill it since the price is down around $1.20 or something like that?
They may have already done that. I don't know. I mean, they can only fill it. They typically fill it once a week.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
Hey, Jim, Kirk,
Yes, sir.
I just want to let you know, I don't know if any other members, board members utilized the clubhouse today, but I did. And it was really handled very well. We were all apart, and the gal, I called an order, called when I got there. And a few minutes later, while she brought out the bill, I paid her. And then they brought out the food, and there was very minimal contact, and it worked real well.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Anything further for Jim? All right, let's move on then to the general manager's report. Randy, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Delinquency totals went up a little bit. Last month, they were at 16,692. This month, they're up to 17,595, an increase of about $900. Roads were at 2960 last month, and they went way down to 1660. Dam assessment total is $218,842. We had received amenities funds for cleaning out the sediment trap, which it dearly needs at the North Park. That's going to happen next week, weather permitting. Jim Downard, who did that before, it will be doing that next week. The spring OLCA meeting that was scheduled for Apple Valley has been canceled. The fall meeting is still on for Hidden Valley over in Indiana. As we have done in the last 5 years ago, once the pontoon launch happens, we're going to go in and clean out the boneyard. We'll check with all the members to make sure they have lot numbers on their trailers and make sure all the trailers in there are legitimate. Canoes, we've got a lot of canoes that we pulled out of Lake Eagle Claw that didn't have lot numbers. Those are over there. We'll make sure people get those marked. We'll have Dobmeyer come and pick them up. But that'll go out as an e-blast after the pontoon launch, and we'll give people ample time to get their trailers marked and their canoes and kayaks identified. Also, as of right now, the swimming pool startup is going to be as usual till further notice. The last thing on my list is we had a member approach us about putting in an additional walking trail at Area 54, and management approved that for walking trail only, not vehicles. And he has been informed of that. And that's all I have, sir. Any questions?
Remind me again how much Jim Downard is charging us to clean the sediment trap?
We've got $2,500 through the amenities fund. He is supposed, but that included hauling, I think. He was supposed to put out another quote for me this afternoon, but as of quitting time, I didn't have it yet.
Where is he going to put the material? Is he going to put it there in North Park, or is he going to take it away?
No, he'll put it there in North Park and we'll haul it.
Okay. Okay. So it's going to be less than 2,500. Is that your?
That's my thought. That's my thought.
Okay. Okay. Well, we've learned that we can depend upon Jim Downard, so I'm not too worried about that over the years.
Once I get that quote, I'll pass it along.
Okay, okay. Any
Hey,
other
Randy,
questions for Randy?
Randy, Eric here. I think it was like January when me, you, and Jim Kirk got together, talking about golf course stuff, and then we just started discussing the Garden Gate and the Durbin Run Gate, and I think we were looking into what our possibilities were of being able to open up that Garden Gate and make that a remote gate for members, especially those members that were in the Enchanted Forest, Montezuma area, to be able to come through the Garden Gate to get to the lodge and clubhouse and so forth, just being much more convenient. Is there anything happening with that?
There was a big controversy about that many years ago. Those people who live out on Durbin Run didn't want that. That's why, because we were going to put a permanent gate there onto Iroquois, where if you go down Iroquois, you'll see that guardrail there. That's where we wanted to put a permanent entry gate, and they filed a lawsuit, and the club dropped it. So I doubt they'll allow us to do that without a bunch of legal activity.
Right, so that was to create a gate. In this case, we already have a gate that's there. And it would certainly be a huge convenience for all of our members to be able to not have to go and circumvent all the hills to get to the lodge and the clubhouse if they could come through that. I guess I'm curious if anybody else has any thoughts on us maybe taking a look at that a little deeper than just letting that go.
In Enchanted Forest, I would love that. However, we clearly don't have the money to do that. We barely can maintain the gates we have.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's that, and also Randy sort of did not speak to the intensity that we would get, I think, from the township people who live on Durbin Run Road. Eric, if you remember, that's when we actually went to them and asked them if we could just to take the material, the sediment out of the lake and move it into Area 54 and use that road for a couple weeks. And that's when the township supervisor who was there, who no longer is on the township board, but that was when he got all up in arms and dumped dirt in it. When I talked to the prosecuting attorney after that, so the county engineer was sort of said, well, he didn't see there was anything wrong with us doing it, but it was clear he wasn't looking for a fight. And the prosecuting attorney didn't want to go back through all of the legal aspects to whether, because there wasn't ever any, it wasn't litigated, and certainly a decision wasn't made. So I think, we can approach it or follow up on it, but it's gonna, I would be a little concerned some of those guys over there would be shooting rock salt at us as we drove by, because it's, if we would open that back up. But
But all these people on that backside pay taxes to use that road. And again, the gate is already there. And I understand the point that we don't have the money potentially to put an automated gate there right now. And I don't necessarily feel that I've got any skin in the game there, because where I live, but I think that would be a huge convenience for those people that live there. And if we could just put that on our radar screen as something to look at when some funds do become available, of course, if we get an assessment increase and so forth. I just wanted to throw it out there. That's be a nice thing for us to have.
Hey, Eric, one of the other things we'd have to look at cost. And you're right, we've already got a gate there, so I'm not too sure if they could legally stop us from putting an automated gate. But what you would have is you'd not only have the cost of the gate, but you have to maintain that road at a whole lot higher level than you're maintaining it right now. Right now, it's 2-track with some gravel on it, where you'd probably have to put a little asphalt through there if it's going to get much use. But I wouldn't mind having it there. I'm just saying we'd have to look at the budget for more than just a gate.
Have any members asked for that?
Was this, I'm just curious. I don't have the agenda in front of me, but was this on the agenda that we were going to talk about a new gate today?
No. This is just this.
I was just following up on a conversation that Randy and Jim Kirk and I had. Now, of course, we haven't had a chance to talk in months, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
We can add it and then add it to the agenda for a meeting in the future.
That's fine. We can do that.
And in the meantime, I can look into it a little bit closer to see what the outcome was the last time we tried that.
I wasn't looking for a vote or anything. I just wanted to see where we were at with it. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Anything further for Randy? All right, let's move on to committee business and
Randy.
reports.
Jim, hold on. I think Linda wanted to say something.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you. Would you be able to tell folks, Randy, about the camera that's going to be put up around the organic garden and the reason why?
Sure. Yes, we did install the camera last week. I haven't been over to check it yet to see if there's been any activity. Linda reported that she saw the neighbor who we've had some issues with in the past drive his ATV down the road and then back out the other side. And so we put that camera up to see indeed if he's making more than one or two entrances in the time period. And so we'll look into that.
By the way, that's not a security camera. It's just a game camera.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, one thing about that, that neighbor, he gave the garden committee some trouble early on, and I'm talking 7, 8 years ago. Last year, when we were going to put on the Garden Arts Fest, he came and said, "Hey, I'll mow a little more to make it easier for your guys to set up your tents." So lately, he hasn't been a problem. But the thing that I don't, Linda, you might know, but his lot actually comes out into what normally people would consider our area. There's a post there, and he's got a finger of his lot that comes out there. And so he's got the right to come out and mow. Now, I don't know where you saw him go. If he's riding around, well, then that's different. But he hasn't been a problem lately.
Greg, he was on an ATV. I heard the ATV actually from Hideaway Hills Lane. I heard it from a distance coming along, and then he rode up through the organic garden lane. So he came off of Hideaway Hills Road. He didn't come from that compound there. And then he was riding on the lane of organic garden. And I was walking one of our dogs up there, and he drove right by me, and and then he made a turn into the compound. So there's no mistaking where he was.
Well, we'll find out what happens and we'll report back and see how often he's coming and if he's just riding around in Hideaway Hills or if it was just a one-off. We'll follow up with that. All right. Any other further items in this or for the general manager report, or you want to go on to committee business and reports? Let's do committee business. Anybody got anything?
I do.
All right.
Go ahead. This is for the social committee. Again, obviously the fundraisers that they typically have been suspended. They would like to do a online sales of Hideaway Hills apparel. It would strictly be online, and it would begin sometime in May and run through June. So we're talking, 6 to 8 weeks of online sales that people could place orders for Hideaway Hills garb, and it would be available probably around July. And if They just asked me to pass that on tonight as, if I want to ask for approval tonight, or I could put it in a e-vote form with Linda.
I have no problem with the concept. I guess probably when you get more of the specifics, it might make sense, the dates and times and stuff. And we can e-vote that one.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm just wondering about if that might not be stepping on somebody's toes. I can't remember. I think it might have been Friends and Fellowship sold apparel. I know the golf committee has sold apparel. Are we not? I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just wondering if we're not getting too many people selling apparel and nobody's going to make any money off of it. It's just something to think about.
Actually,
I can help answer that, Jim. Kathy actually
This is Annie.
offered, yeah, this is Annie, Tim. Kathy offered to help the social committee by doing this and using the funds to help them from the FF committee.
Okay. I just,
That's a good question, though.
if somebody could come up with something really different to sell, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
The Wellness Committee was considering the same thing.
Health and Wellness Committee was considering doing the same thing.
Also selling shirts or something.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was making. I'm not saying don't do it one or the other, but maybe some original thinking might help.
well, how about first come, first served? I'm just saying.
If we could see your face, we'd vote on it.
No, seriously. I spoke with Kathy today, and the FFF committee is kind of almost, Annie, help me out, extinct at this point.
No, well, I mean, we don't have anything to meet on at this point. I mean, so yeah, but we've been running sales like this in the past, and Kathy and I still have in our basement leftover garb that was from earlier orders.
Mhm.
So we would be interested in also trying to sell that to just clear the
Right.
inventory.
Sure.
And again, in all jest, I'm just saying, I know that all the committees are looking for opportunities to raise funds, and of course the social committee is really being shut down big time. When I said first come, first served, I'm kind of serious. If we approach it at the beginning first, then I think it needs to be considered.
Oh, I think it needs to be considered. I just was bringing that up as a point, if health and wellness are not health. Well, I guess we've kind of had an unwritten rule that nobody would step on anybody else while they were having the sale. And I would just hate to see Committee A start selling shirts and T-shirts, and the next thing you know, Committee B is doing the same thing.
Right.
But I kind of agree with you, Tim. First come, first serve is not a bad idea.
I'm curious as to what you guys have left, and maybe since you have garb left, maybe you guys should be first up. If it's in your basement.
Sure. Yeah, we've got a lot of used T-shirts and such, and then pint glasses, and then pool bags are the main three things we have.
Well, we could all use more T-shirts.
If we were just a little smaller.
I was gonna say,
Well, no.
I got a granddaughter I can buy one for.
Yeah, the kids, that's right, yeah.
Okay, well, that's not going to work then.
Not for me.
We were thinking of,
Tom, do you guys have a plan yet for health and wellness, or is it something
No, it
that you
just
can
came
get
up. We had
together
a
with Tim
meeting
and maybe coordinate?
Monday. They were just throwing out ideas about fundraising, and that was one. I understand what everybody else is saying. So
Hey, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey, Tim.
yes.
One thing you might suggest to them, it may not make near as much money, which probably they've thought about it, but they sold those license plates brackets some time ago, and they have not sold those in a long time. We got a whole lot of new members, so that might be something that they could do. Just a thought.
and Mike might have some of those left also.
Let me get with Kathy, because this is kind of her idea to move forward for the social committee, and I will get together with her and try to get a better explanation, if you want to call it that, and send it to Linda for an e-vote. How about that?
Okay with me.
That sounds fine to me too, Tim.
Okay. I'll get with Kathy and we'll get that taken care of later this week.
All righty. Any other committee reports? Requests? There being none, let's move on then. That sort of takes us to the big one for tonight, in my mind anyway. I don't think we have to worry about open forum, which is, what do we want to do with this assessment increase? It's looking doubtful that we would be able to have a sort of a meeting that people would come to. We could schedule a meeting that nobody gets to attend, where you just come in and drop off your ballots per se. The other alternative is to think about this going forward is being a completely mail ballot. The code doesn't speak to an absence or a requirement one way or another. If we declare a special meeting, as we talked about, on June 28th, which we still have enough time to be 60 days, and that the function of the meeting is simply for people to deliver paper, and we could even put a mailbox out in front of the front entryway to the lodge dining room, and people will just submit them there, probably not have pick up ballots. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud now. I really, really would like to do this in June. I really don't want to wait till August. And so I'm just trying to think of, get a sense of what other people want, and whether they want to do that. Number is obviously one thing. And then number two, or do we want to postpone to August? And if we do, the ramifications of it, and having a vote. Everyone seems to think that the last thing that will be allowed back in terms of the distance and the social distancing are large meetings. And that might even have an implication, certainly, to sporting events. So that's what I'm concerned about. Yeah, go ahead. I'm done.
I'm just going to jump in here, basically asking a question or two. We will go into phase 1 on May 1, or phase 2 on phase 1 on May 1, correct? And we have to be phase 2, which would be May 14th. Now,
the guidelines from the governor?
Guidelines that we have to abide by. Phase 2, if I remember right, and please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, you can have crowds up to 75. Now, if we held that outside in the
I think that's 50.
Pardon me? Pardon me, Linda?
I think that number is 50. I can do a quick check here, though.
Well, either way, if we held that at the amphitheater, we could have the meetings, which that's the thing that scares me more than anything else about doing it too soon, is we can't have the meetings to answer the people's questions. So if we could hold off on any kind of a decision, because I'd like to see it June 28th too, but I'm not really in favor of mail-in ballots only. It just might be that we could have a couple of meetings and use the space thing if we had plenty of room outside And maybe, I guess what I'm really saying is I think I'd rather wait until after May 1. Randy, you said we have to have a decision made. If we were going to have the June 28th meeting, we have to have the decision made by what, the 1st of June? So that you can get the ballots printed and everything. Is that correct?
Yeah, we need time to get the ballots printed. I don't know exactly what the date is though.
Sometime we did. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do we need the 60 days though to notify people that the vote is gonna, that was the other hangup, was if we were gonna have a meeting for, I mean, the language doesn't really speak to the fact of that we have to have a meeting for a vote. It doesn't say that at all. It just, there's sort of, I don't think people ever considered that we'd be in this sort of a situation. Because we talked about it before, we needed 60 days because we were going to put it in the echo 60 days before the vote was, before the special meeting was going to occur. And we needed 90 days for the language to go on the ballot. Those were the two, those
Yeah.
to me are the two pieces.
The absentee ballot window is 45 days prior to the meeting until 20 days. So if
And
40 go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, backing up for Randy from 45 days, however much time he needs to get it printed and such, I guess.
Going back to phase 2 guidelines, it is 50 people. Is the
But if
limit.
we use the social distancing and we had enough room down there, we could have information meetings. If we had them outside and people stayed spread out, I know I'm correct on that. Even if we had 50 people there, and we've never had 50 people at an informational meeting yet, but I don't know. I don't know what the answer is either. I'm like you, Jim Krieger. I'd like to see this done as soon as possible. And do we want to hold off on that situation for another 2 weeks? Or no, well, not even 2 weeks, till after the 1st of May, and to make a decision on whether we go. Otherwise, I think we might just well wait until August and do it at the regular meeting.
Decision tonight if we're going to do it 20th. Give us our 60 days.
60 days. We gave everybody 60 days notice. We were going to do it. We set the date, gave them the 60-day notice. And I don't think anybody's going to be real upset if we don't have it. We're not having it quicker than the 60 days we gave it notice. We're doing it much later than the 60-day notice we gave them.
I think you might have a little problem. I think a couple of our attorneys would suggest that if we don't give them the time that's listed in the code, and if they didn't like the results of the election, they could challenge it based upon the fact that we didn't follow. I mean, I would be concerned about that.
Okay, well, this looks to me.
Your point makes good sense, but yeah.
We have to follow the code.
No matter when we have the meeting, Annie and Mary Beth, you guys are in tune with the meetings. Do you think it would pass if we had it?
I think it's hard to tell right now because a lot of the questions the MAG committee was asking us, we were not really able to get answers on. Them were around the lodge and the planned funding, schedule of funding the delinquent capital funds and stuff. And that's, again, I know I keep pushing on us publishing those numbers. It's because they want to know what the plan is. We all in the MAG meetings that the tagline is like, let's get back to being healthy, but we need to define that for them and help people understand what that is and compare it to where we're at. We've not met with MAG for several weeks. We've been waiting for us to have another board meeting, so we'll probably follow up with them after this. But I think secondary to the MAG committee, I'm concerned about people who are being financially impacted by unemployment and being out of work right now. So
I agree with that. I think we should hold off till August, so people really know what their financial situations are going to be.
Yeah, the impact of waiting 3 months, implementing it July 1 versus September 1, it's right about $75,000, for if we would not collect that money for 3 months. So, I mean, that's $30 times the 800 assessments and dividing it by the 3 months that we're at. So it's not, it's not huge. I'm similar. I just don't have a sense of where people are at. People that I know and I'm generally around are all supportive, and they're asking me, when are you going to put it back up? But that's a very small sample. And to use the word that everybody's mentioning these days, that would only be anecdotal evidence.
We are flying blind now. We are surmising that things will be better come August. And hopefully that's the course that we're on, but we really don't have any way of knowing. So it's kind of a stab in the dark. And I certainly understand that people some of them are in dire straits. But I hate for us to get further into financial morass. So I know that didn't help one little bit, but
Hey, I agree.
No matter when we have the vote, we got to get it where it's going to pass.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think my other concern is if we do, well, that's kind of where I was going to go, Eric, is if we do put it forth and it fails a third time, I mean, we've got to think about voting fatigue. Like we keep.
I think there's probably going to be a better chance of it passing if we wait until August, because there's going to be a lot more knowledge as to where we are, what's going on. If the 3 phases go through, and Ohio is not in near as bad a trouble as a lot of the other states, but the one thing we don't want to do is do it too soon and have it fail. And I think people probably have a lot better idea what their own personal financial situation is. We sometimes sit here and lose fact that there are people in Hideaway Hills living hand to mouth, month to month. And
Eric, what's your thought? You were very strong about wanting to go again in June. Has that changed your mind any at all? Or are you still with that?
I don't think so. I guess I'd like to hear why, if it fails, why we can't put it back on in August again and give it another shot. I mean, it seems to me that the more opportunities we have to go and to try to get this passed, we should take it. And we might be surprised. We don't really know what everybody's thinking. There's no way really to tell whether people are going to vote yes or no. So we have an opportunity, put it on the ballot in June. If it fails, well, then we put it back on in August again. I guess that's my thought process, unless somebody can convince me otherwise.
I don't think we've got 60 days from the 28th of June until the 3rd week in August.
what did the MEG group think? Annie?
They thought we should wait till August. They thought it was too risky to try to put it up now with the financial impact to everyone. So they were recommending we wait. Secondary to that, they were recommending if we do move forward with voting, just to do all absentee ballot.
Mary Beth, what do you think?
Well, I still think August, mostly because, and I know that the club needs the money. I get that. But the feeling I had was, in order for it to pass in June, we need to start advertising, getting information out, asking people, to start thinking about giving us this extra money through an assessment increase. And that would have to start now for it to pass in June, because we're just a month away from that. 2 months if it's at the end of June. So 60 days of advertising to people asking for right now, it's sort of a tough pill to swallow when, I mean, I don't know if anybody here is affected. I know, like my husband, he had to shut down his dental practice, and I'm sure other people are affected too. So there are people, who that I think will have to really look hard at it, and they're trying to figure out what to do. But to ask for money right now seems tough. Um, and I feel like if Annie and I and the MAG group was going to be in charge of putting information out to people, we need to get a whole lot more information that we haven't been able to get in order to organize that. And we've sort of talked about possibly handing that over to someone else, maybe management, to go ahead and organize that and get that information out. We're not at all at a stage where we can go ahead and get information out to ask people to give us more money, especially right now. So I'm concerned. I'll do whatever whatever the vote is that passes. That's what I'm going with. And but my vote would be August.
You know, I'm the one that I'm the one that originally brought that up in the last meeting, that instead of waiting, because we were talking about waiting to August, and I said, well, let's wait and see till the next meeting, and then we'll still have time to move it one way or the other. And at this point, I'm in favor of waiting until August. There's one other thing. We're not spending near as much money because we're not paying for the lodge and the clubhouse. So we're not spending a lot more money. We're spending a lot less money than we were. I hate to lose $75,000, but I'd much rather lose $75,000 and pass it so that we know where we're going forward than to run it too quick and have another loss, because psychologically, I think that's really rough.
This is Linda. I'm in favor of waiting until August. I think things are too uncertain now and chaotic, and everyone's focused on just living and getting by. And I don't know that this is even going to catch people's attention that much.
Tim, you're the only person I haven't heard from yet. Where do you come on this?
Before listening to everybody, I was going to suggest we go with the June deal, but based on a conversation and what Mary Beth and Annie with their committee reports feel like, I guess I got to go with that. I think we probably should wait till August.
If I can add one more thing. Oh, I'm sorry, Tim. If I can add one more thing, I would really like to go June, but I think people are unsettled now. And if you look at people, even though they haven't lost a job, their 401k is tanked. And yeah, right, Jim.
Thanks for reminding me about that, Greg.
Yeah, you're pushing against a negative sense, and so I reluctantly said I'll chime in and say August.
All right. Well, I think since we don't really have a motion on the floor, all we need to do is we'll talk about it at our next meeting and go from there. We'll still be within the time zone. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, just one other thing that I guess we'll need to think about is the SOS fund was set up to fund the security through May, because we were originally thinking that the vote would occur in May. Do we need to do another fundraiser, or what are we thinking? Has management talked about that at all?
I thought that pledge was through August. I thought
No,
it was for
it was not through August, but it was through June. And I don't right at the moment, Randy, with 30,000 in there, we're good through at least June.
Oh yeah, we're in good shape.
We might have to come back out, Annie, if we decide to move to August, we might have to come back out and ask for some funds to do it, July and August, especially since there's going to be expense security wise from Memorial Day to Labor Day to run a lake patrol.
I think everybody that's contributing now will keep doing it.
Yeah, I had a member approach me as well, Tom, and said that they'd be willing to keep it going.
I think most of them, all we did was ask, Tom.
Yeah, I think we need to
that was a member. sorry, that was a member initiative anyway. That came out of John Lefevre and that group there, rather than, that wasn't a management committee or a club request. That came right out of the membership. All right, let's move on. Does everybody have their, I'd hate to do it. I got the e-votes here to read. That's the next thing on the agenda. I can go quickly on it. All the votes were 8-0. Starting with on 2/22, an e-vote for the following dates for concert sponsored by the social committee. At the amphitheater, May 23, June 13, July 18, August 8, and September 5. The next one on the 22nd was an e-vote to approve the range shooting on April 25, September 13, and November 8, all 1-4. 2/25 is an e-vote, the addition of Any Color 8/22/2020 concert to be held at the amphitheater. March 5, an e-vote approved for health and wellness to have a March Madness basketball pool as a fundraiser. March 8, e-vote to pay Greg Patassin $281.70 from Garden Committee funds for a still string trimmer, plastic to cover manure, and a mat to go under the new gate. 3/9/20, an e-vote to pay from Lakes Committee funds, maintenance staff up to $656 for pontoon launch. March 10, an e-vote to the Lakes Committee for the Lakes Committee to reimburse HAH $1,645.18 for the construction of a new kayak and canoe racks. March 11, e-vote to Lakes Committee to refund Fritz Reiser $35. March 14th, e-vote for the AFY Committee approval of the date to hold the Easter egg roll on April 4, and approval to spend up to and including $400 for the Easter egg roll. March 19, Article 9 e-vote, and recommended another $2,500 fine. 3/22 e-vote 1 to reimburse Belinda Augustus from the AFY committee funds for $66.80 for pizza provided at the Jolly Hoppers event. Part 2, approve the payment of a deposit of $240 to all night events for the DJ to provide music at the Dam Jam. March 23, an e-vote to reimburse Lance Olds $35.84 for a new lot signpost purchased. 3/25 e-vote to postpone the special meeting scheduled for May 17. 3/31, an e-vote to reimburse Marge Geyer $53.75 for organic fertilizer to be resold to OGC gardeners. March 31, e-vote to fine Kimberly Sauer $250 for failing to control her dog, who then bit a child. 4/8/20, e-vote for annual trash pickup day to occur on Saturday, April 18th. And also an e-vote for the golf committee to move the member guest golf tournament to Saturday, August 1, 2020 at 9 a.m. Golf will be closed from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Number 2, to move the Memorial Scramble from May 9, 2020 to 9 a.m. on Monday, May 25, 2020. Of course, again, would be closed from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. 4/13, an e-vote for chapel committee flower sale. And then there was an e-vote for approval of a fundraising date for the social committee, which I guess was going to be a pork dinner. And you probably both these with yes or no, it's okay. Also from the golf committee, an e-vote to approve $502.53 for the new golf cart scorecards to be paid by the golf committee, and an e-vote to approve $256.26 to Lance Olds for signposts on behalf of the new member committee. All of those were 8-0. May I have a motion to accept the e-votes?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any no votes? There being no votes, the e-votes are confirmed. All right, let's go down to the next one, which is South Central Power Line Project. And with Eric Lapp's initiative, following up with Eric Boysko, the Utilities Committee has been interacting with South Central Power. Eric, you got this. Did any other members get it of what the South Central Power Project is going to look like? I didn't forward it to him. This was the email from Boysko.
Yeah, I think it was kind of limited on who was on that list, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll get this out to everybody tomorrow. I mean, I've got it. But anyway, so what it is, this is the plan, and Eric, jump in at any time if I misspeak. This is the plan that would take the main power line, which comes through by the Bremen Gate, comes all the way to the hills. It then skirts across around Area 54. It'll come underneath the main driveway, close to where where Mockensturms are, I guess, roughly right in that area, underneath the road, and then it'll go down the existing easement all the way down along Hideaway Hills Lane to by the maintenance shed. And this is to take that main trunk line that goes above there, the power line, and to bury it all the way through in conduit. The hope is that they will also, and they're talking with the telecom companies, because they want the telecom companies to put their lines in there too and help share the cost. So at this point, their design is 99% complete. Their permits are nearly completed. It says their procurement is 90% complete. They have done no construction, and they're looking to probably begin later this summer. It says here July 2020. My impression is that may well slip as well. And the completion will be another 18 months. The completion will not be finished until December of 2021. And then in the springtime, then they would restore all the materials. One of the parts of this thing is that if you live along those lines, that they will, if you have above ground service to your home, they will give you the option of burying your line. They will pay for the line to be buried, but you will have to pay for some equipment at your home out of your own pockets. It seemed like it was going to be just a few $100s, but again, until you get the details, it's not clear. We've asked them to interact with us to keep us in the loop. They said in this thing, it says they're going to put together some sort of a document. We had offered at that time, we met with them the first time, we offered to hold a meeting, like an open forum up, at the lodge. But of course, that's out of the question now. So nevertheless, we're going to have to distribute some information, let people know about it. Number one, so they know what's happening. And number two, if in case they want to actually become part of it and get their line buried. Eric, any additions on that?
I don't think so, Jim. I think that's a pretty good job.
Okay, thank you. So that's where we're at with that. Like I said, Boysko has been meeting with them, and his utilities committee has been active. And I didn't make the last meeting; I made the two previous ones, so we can keep up with it. I mean, obviously, there's a huge advantage to us. There's going to be, some discomfort because they're going to be going through and cutting things down, and it'll be, a fairly long period of time. It's going to be a year and a half. But nevertheless, one of the things they talked, and we met with them too, that was sort of interesting, is they said that right now there's a real lack of redundancy in their system. So they always build these systems so that if the grid goes down in one place, that they can feed the grid from another location. And because the way how much that they run through that particular wire, they feel that their system's got some flaws in its design because it doesn't provide them the adequate redundancy. And so there's another line that comes in, I don't know, from somewhere over by Amanda or something like that. And so they were hoping that with this now, with a more stable system, that they would be able to get not only would there be fewer outages, but when there was an outage, they'd be able to get the system up much more quickly. Those of you who live on the dark side of the lake, Mary Beth, you're not in this project. Because you're on a completely different grid. I mean, and Jim Lloyd, you're the same way. You're just out of luck.
Well,
you're along for the ride.
Does that mean we can't do it?
Mr. Krieger, at the one meeting we were all at, they did point out that there would be some benefit to the dark side because they could, if the dark side goes down and this side doesn't after this is repaired, they would be able to backfeed quicker to the dark side. So
That is correct.
as much as we like to pick on, we take that out.
I sit corrected. You are correct on that. I will get this email out. I'm sorry, I was just actually looking at it, and there's no reason that all of you can't have it just to see it. But I mean, I think the main role for us is to work with them and make sure they do as good a job as we can get them to do, respecting our property and what we're doing, and then also let our members know what's happening.
And kudos to Eric for bulldogging these guys and getting them to finally respond to us, because I understand that that's been problematic in the past. So at least it seems like we have some dialogue going now.
I think that's fair. Yeah, he has, and he's been very aggressive and summarizing the reports, and they're doing the same thing with him now as well. So yeah, I think we've taken a step forward in that whole process. Are there any questions? I'll get this email out, the email that we got. I'll get that out to you tomorrow, so you'll have it, so you don't you'll have the information. Okay, the next time, Eric, this was yours. You brought this up. It was something that you thought, and I agree with you too. But why don't you take the lead on this one?
Okay. It just as I've been. My phone died.
Eric,
Oh, no. We lost the video.
he forgot to plug it in and charge it.
Well, I can get started. The whole idea here was, and if he comes back on, we'll pick it up, was that if you drive around, there's a number of places that really look pretty crappy. There's one that's right behind Greg Patasson's house. It's got a tree lying on it. I happen to be living next door to a property that's pretty substantial. But I've been here for
There's two right behind our house.
right
The thing was got, yeah. Go.
There's the other one, which is right up on Eagle Claw, which is so unused that when the kids stole the quad from the other people, he used their garage to hide it in. And so the idea in the past, and Randy, you can speak to this a little bit. We had, and I forgot who else. Jim Lloyd, were you involved in it? Where we had a group of vigilantes that went around and picked which places look bad.
Yeah, we had that. That was more not distressed houses as junk in the yard and stuff like that. But I've got a house down the road from me. There's only 3 houses on my road, and one of them has not had anybody lived in it for over 10 years. I'm thinking closer to 15 years. And it's looking pretty shabby too. Great property. I'd like to buy it, tear it down, and build there.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the guy that lives next to me. I've reached out to him, and I know others have as well. And he's incommunicado. He just doesn't respond.
I've had a member on Shawnee, to the Parkers, the house that, I mean, it's terrible. One that Dryden was working on.
Oh yeah,
It's PD Parker asked me the other night, what do I need to do? It's a little system.
That's the question. What can we do?
I mean, we can certainly find people for appearance. What do you do with that, Randy? What's your structure, your fine structure on that?
That's basically it. I'm finding Blue here for quite some time. Of course, we're not getting any benefit from him. We did that to Martone, and he did finally clean his place up. Of course, we've done that several times to Seaschultz back by the Bremen Gate. We did that also to your neighbor until he got that stuff cleaned up. But regardless, the house is pretty bad shape. And so you've got those, and the same way with the guy on Shawnee. We did the same thing with him, and he threw up such a fit. And I felt sorry for him because he had 2 contractors in there that didn't fix things for him. He did finally have one come in, tear everything down, but he hasn't moved forward with it yet. So yeah, we are finding them, but it just doesn't seem to do much good. because Seashore is back in that spot right now.
What's Spangler say?
I don't know. Are you back, Eric?
I am. I can't believe you handed the baton off to me and my phone went and just died. So now I'm on computer now. So
It was not intentional. It wasn't intentional. There's no meter there for me to.
well, obviously I missed a little bit there. And the tee up was, and it sounds like Randy was already speaking to it. And it's more than just some of the ones that Randy was speaking of there towards the end. We seem to have a lot of homes in here. I think of 5 off the top of my head that whether there's trees still on it, there's decks that are falling off. There's just the homes are becoming dilapidated. And that's been, I mean, the two that there's a few of them, the two right on Natchez by the golf course. I mean, those trees fell in 2017 and we've kind of just, I guess we gave them time to go in and try to clean some things up. But this is now coming up on 3 years now and no changes. And I know we've had issues with, as Randy was speaking to, some people whose properties were not in great condition because of garbage or junk or so forth. But I'm speaking more of these homes that maybe they're paying their dues, but the homes are just falling apart. And I think we should do something before somebody, it certainly could be a health and safety issues before somebody's walking around a kid or something's walking around the property and they fall off one of the decks or they're coming apart. I just think there's some things that we should probably as a homeowners association do to try to get bring these properties back into line. And I know that in the past we've had these ad hoc committees that go around and do this. I'm thinking maybe it's time that we bring this back up again and try to get these properties brought up to code.
The problem is, Eric, what can we do? They're members, they're paying their dues. We can't force them to tear their house down. I mean, I agree with you. Like I said, the one I'm living in, or the one I'm living in.
Okay, Jim.
The one down the road from me, the doors are open. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the bears are living at. But I'm not sure what we can legally do. Unless I don't know if there's anything in the building code. I can't pull up anything off the top of my head in the building code that says you have to keep your house in total repair. But most of them are abandoned. The one by me is abandoned. The one that Jim was speaking of, there's not been anybody in there for years.
Yeah.
Well, legally, is that something we can put up? A change in our, does it have to be a change in our code or a change in our rules?
It'd be the code or the rules or the code of regulations, anything. But I'm curious, Jim, have you talked to Spangler about what we can do?
The rules. That would be the rules. And I mean, for instance, the one beside Greg, he's being fined now. And they're with the attorney. They are paying once in a while, but yeah, they're being fined a monthly charge right now.
I don't believe that's the answer. I believe we got to be more drastic than that. But legally, Jim, have you talked to Jeff about what we can do about this?
No, I mean, this just came up. Eric just brought it up last week, so I didn't, I didn't get a sense yet of. I mean, I'll be happy to do that and follow up. I mean, this has got to be pretty well established in homeowner association law, what you can do and not do. And so, yeah, I can certainly, go forward to Jeff and tell him what we're doing and ask his advice, whether, a stronger code. I mean, if we did make it really strong by going to the code, then it would take the 2/3 vote. A rule would be different, obviously. So we could just do that. But I'll follow up with Jeff. If that's
you might also be jolly about it.
Yeah. The only problem is with Jolly is he charges $400 an hour.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Just talk to Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was all those years that we had Rick Levinsky, who was senior to John, who worked for free. Now we got John, and I was right, Randy, it's somewhere close to $400 an hour.
$345 an hour.
That's close enough for me.
And Spangler's a savings at $250 an hour.
Is he 250? I guess it was back when we did the lawsuit, he was down to 160 or something, but.
Right. He reduced his fees back then.
Okay.
So Jim, I think that'd be great. I think to reach out to our attorneys. At the same time, I guess I'd like us to start combining. Let's start creating a list of these properties that are, so that we can start doing something about it, or at least have them on the list. It sounds like some of them are being fined, or all of them being fined. I don't know the answer to that, but what do we need to do to create an ad hoc committee, or is everybody in agreement that we would need to do something like that? I just think it's time to start putting that on the radar.
I agree with you. Why don't we let Jim talk to Jeff Spangler about what legally we can do? I mean, I hate to spend the money.
We can wait another month. I agree. We to hear the answer on that. I just wanted to put it on the radar. I think it's time that we start taking a look at this. That's all.
Well, I think your point though of getting a list of them right now makes sense. I mean, because that isn't going to change. I mean, we've already talked about probably half a dozen of them already here tonight. So why don't you, send it to Randy, a list of things that you think are candidates for the list, and we'll just start, bringing the list up and see how many that we really think are on there, and then.
I can do that. I guess that would. I mean, I'm one person, and I've certainly got a few on my list. If others, when you're driving around, you see a property that looks like it's dilapidated, let's send that list to send that property to Randy, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
I think that we do need to talk, obviously, with Spangler and or Jolly, but part of it's going to be definition. So I think we need to define what we mean by dilapidated. We can't just say, I think this one is dilapidated. What is our what's our criteria? So we need something objective to go by in order to make these kind of comments and actually infringe upon their property, fine them. I understand the trash when I was just looking at the rules. That's one thing, that's pretty clear. But when we're talking about someone having to perform work on their property because it doesn't meet standards, then I think we need to be very clear as to what those standards are. They need to be objective and they need to be fair. Just my 2 cents.
Yep, no, that makes sense. Yep. We don't want this to look like it's a witch hunt that we're going after. Because there's a few people I would like us to go after, but I probably shouldn't say that.
We just need to be careful here.
Yeah, really. Agreed. I agree.
Just leave my house off the list. That was a slip of the tongue, okay?
I think you self-nominated earlier, didn't you, Jim? All right. That's good. I'll report back. Okay, the next one is the club lots. And this goes back to 2014. And there was a project that Vicki Crombie, who was on the board at the time, did I think with Susan Pyle and maybe a couple other folks, where they went around the hills and they looked at the club lots and they made a proposal for which lots should be green space lots, for example, and which ones were watershed. I don't think, Greg and Jim, I don't think we ever voted on that one way or another, is my recollection.
I don't remember. I think we just talked about it, and there was, seems to me we decided not to sell some lots. Ray, you might chime in on this if you remember, because I think we just talked about what to do about them, and some lots that just we didn't want to sell them, we wanted to keep them for the green space. You remember, Greg?
Yeah, there was no vote. It was just a discussion. That's all. But I would say the one that was sent out today, what's the color coding on it, Randy?
can tell you the color coding. The color coding is the blue lots are the watershed lots. And I sent everyone information on the watershed lots and why they're important to maintain without homes on them, without construction. The blue lots are green space lots, and the yellow lots were considered to be non-buildable.
Wait,
And there are some
I think
lots, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have a problem. There's two different maps. It was the map that you sent out a couple days ago that had 5 different colors on it. I think the one Randy sent out today didn't have quite as many colors on it. Or maybe it's just like, I can't see it as well.
Well, it should have only had the green, the blue, and the yellow. Now, Randy went through today, and I appreciate it, Randy, and marked off the lots that had been sold already out of this group, and there were some of the watershed lots, which is kind of unfortunate, as well as green space lots.
Linda, who determined what category they went in?
Well, the watershed lots are lots that actually are kind of steep, and the water flow from those lots go into lakes. So it's those kind of areas that can create silt. So if you go in and you construct and you disturb the soil, you create driveways, that sort of thing, then you've created potentially an erosion problem like we have now at Blankenships. So that was a concern with the watershed lots. And if you get an opportunity, you may have already done that, but it would be good to read the article as to why they're important. The green space lots, how they were chosen, I'm assuming that they went around and said, okay, how many homes do we want to have in an area?
Who chose the lots? Who chose the?
I'm assuming it was Vicky, Crombie, Susan Pyle, and I don't know if anyone else was with them. I think it probably Jim Palmer back in the day. I'm sorry, what?
Vicky Crombie was the one that went through and designated that she felt that these should be green space lots. I don't remember her reasoning behind it, but she was the one actually designated these are green space. I don't know why, and I don't think it was that far back because Randy was still involved in that. Were you not, Randy?
Yeah, that was 2014.
Okay, I didn't think it was back to Palmer.
Well, no, it was back during Jim Palmer's time when he created the green space lots. It's just that Sue and Vicky went around to verify.
Oh, okay.
So the point in bringing it forward today is, I guess several things. One is that there are 3 watershed lots now that I think are up for sale now, Randy. And I think they're 568, 569, and 570.
Yeah, they're on the list.
Yeah, and I think there's concern because of where they're located. And I did talk with Susan about it, and they do flow, from the sounds of it, directly into Lake Arrowhead. They go through a couple other lots and go right into Lake Arrowhead. But I think more importantly, we have to look as a community and try to determine how much green space we want, whether we want to protect our lakes. I think we do. And then kind of what we want to be when we grow up as a community. And I would suggest that we're already pretty much there. We have limited water, frankly. There are locations that basically run on a low water supply. We have a lot of septics. And the more people we have, the more construction we have, the more strain we put on our infrastructure. So my consideration is maybe we should look at that as a group. And I am suggesting that we put together a committee that would include a representative from the board, a representative from the management committee, a representative from long range planning, architectural control, and lakes committee, and try to figure out where we should go in terms of how we move forward and protect our infrastructure and our community. If we don't, we could very well end up looking like the suburbs we all tried to escape.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at the map, Linda, because there's a big, beautiful home that was just built up near the north end. I don't know if it's 2074 or 2073, but I gotta wonder if that's contributing to the erosion flowing into the north end of the lake or not.
It might be. I don't know that I see it right off hand here with a map. Man, these need to be blown up. You know, map.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do too.
Yeah, it's been long ago since they did this. I would think it needs to be updated.
It would make sense. I think we need to be thoughtful about how we move forward with our community. It's a long-term thing. It's important.
Yeah, Randy, how many club lots do we have now that you still have on the list?
There's probably about 55. However, a lot of those are not buildable.
Okay.
Some that I've sold here lately, I didn't think they were buildable either.
I was gonna say.
Well, yeah. I counted a lot more than that. Of course,
yeah, but not all of them are for sale.
Well, out of the club lots, because looking at the blue, the green, and the yellow, and I started losing track, Randy, because they're so tiny. It was making me crazy. But anyway, I think out of the blue, green, and yellow, there's, God, over 100 lots. Did I count wrong?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, well, if you look at the club website, you'll see the ones that are for sale. I have sold others just because people have come to me and made an offer. And so, yes, there's some that has been sold that were watershed and green space lots. But I made the board aware of that. I made the members aware of that because I'm not the one that makes that choice.
Well, I think that's why we should have a committee that looks at this and makes a determination about what the community should look like.
I'll volunteer to be on that committee.
I have a question.
I'll volunteer to be on the committee.
Who is that? Is that Scott? Okay.
Yeah, that's me,
I just
Scott.
couldn't.
I just have a question or a suggestion or whatever. Any lot that we own is not a watershed lot. But these watershed lots, I agree with Linda on.
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up. I don't know what's going on, but
I think people need to mute their microphone if you're not talking. That might help them.
Yeah, I'll do mine.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm just thinking, any lot that is not a watershed lot we should be able to sell it if somebody wants it. Like Randy said, hey, he sold a couple that were unbuildable. And it's real simple with the watershed lots. We just say that we own them. If we own them, they are not for sale, period. On this, we just spent a whole lot of money to dredge out the north end of the lake, and we don't want to do it again. The ones that are sold and already, what we can do about it. But we simply, somebody comes to Randy and says, hey, I'd really like to buy that lot 22, 21, whichever. And Randy says, I'm sorry, that's a watershed lot and it is not for sale. And, but other than that, I don't see any reason why not to sell them if somebody wants to buy them. But that's a real simple solution. Just, you don't sell the watershed lots.
I hear what you're saying, but I think we have an emphasis too. Yeah, we get more members, get more assessments, that sort of thing. But I don't know how much more we can physically sustain in terms of water and number of septics. I think we need to be forward thinking, and it's not about getting a buck.
Now, I'm not talking about the quick buck so much. I'll tell you what, Linda, I don't think you were on the board when I did a survey on accounts. I can't remember what I did it for, but I went back through and all the number of accounts back 10 or 15 years ago was somewhere around 100 more than we had at that time that we picked up some of those. I think we had 712, and at one time we had 812 accounts, which meant they owned lots. I don't think that we're in such a problem now that we need to not sell lots simply because there's too many people on the lake on the weekends, especially people that are building full time down here. Yeah, we've got to weigh the infrastructure versus the dollars coming in, but I don't think we've reached the point that we used to be at. Quite frankly, we're probably 50 to 75 lots lower than our high lot, and I've got those figures somewhere. I know I went back through about 20 years of echoes, counting the new members that come in and the ones that we lost. So, but I do agree with you 100% on the watershed lots. They should not be sold. I don't care how buildable they are.
Are you saying there used to be more members that now the club owns those lots?
Well, I don't know whether, yeah, it's got to be that way. Well, some of them
Some have been consolidated because people now own 3 lots where they used to only own 2.
Yeah, that's what I was. That cut it back a ways, and we're talking about the use of our amenities, I'm assuming, and some of them that we got through foreclosure and this type of thing. But we are lower than we were at our highest point still. But again, let's not sell them.
There's a difference between selling lots and building on lots. I don't care if the lots are sold, but the more lots that are built on, the more people we have here that use our amenities, that use the water, that add septic tanks. I don't know that we're being very thoughtful in planning out our community if we sell every blade of grass here in Hideaway Hills. I think we need to be a little more surgical about it.
Well, that was the reason for the 3 lot of 1 assessment deal that was put together back several years ago. I mean, that cut out a lot of members because people like me, I bought 3 lots. And there's a lot of people that own 3 lots, but we're still only paying 1 assessment. Well, every time somebody did that, we lost a possible assessment on it. But the number of people that we have in here now as members is less than there was, say, 10 or 15 years, whenever I did.
I guess Linda's made a proposal that we put a group together to look at what we've got and make a determination on that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it'll give us more time because I think we're sort of, let's figure out how many Randy's got. Let's do some categorization of them. Let's put a few folks together again and decide what is watershed, what isn't. And then we'll have a more up-to-date analysis of that. I'm fine with that if this is a way to, rather than, I always like to have data in front of me before I make, decisions about individual policies, I guess. That would be my preference.
Sounds good.
Thoughts? All right. Linda, you want to chair it? Did you say yes?
I could.
Well, or do you have any recommendation for somebody to chair it?
Well, Well, you could chair it. Annie could. I don't care.
I'm trying. You've been around me. I don't.
I don't mind, but I think we need to have good representation from committees that would want to give input. So, but yeah, I can chair it.
How about Scott?
Happy to help as well.
Yeah, Scott, I volunteered.
He did. And then why don't you get a couple other names from the other committees, see if they can recommend somebody, and we'll go from there. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Perfect. Perfect. Moving on, everybody, why don't you grab your Architectural Control Committee language? Have you seen that? We saw these a while back and we had some reviews on it. Linda, you're actually the one who was in charge of this as well. We have a couple.
Yes.
I did. Go ahead, please.
Everyone should have a copy of the proposed changes. And does anyone have any question as to the changes? Would you like me to go through them?
Give me a second. I had it up, but I'm pulling it up again.
I'm good. I reviewed them.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm okay with them.
Damn it, where the hell's that at?
Rick, you have a ghost walking behind you.
Trying to look like Cindy.
It did.
Oh, well, I turned you up. Quit walking behind me.
That's okay.
Where the hell? I pulled this out. It was sitting on my computer before we started the meeting, and now it's gone. That ain't it.
Eric, I just emailed it to you. It should have come through on your email. I just sent it again.
Well, I'm on my email. It did not come through. Come on, Eric.
It was sent out, I think, last Friday.
Yes.
I apologize, guys. I had it up. I looked at it. I did have some questions. And of course, when I'm trying to look through it,
It was Monday at
oh,
12.
here we go. From Linda. Proposed changes to the code. Okay. Okay, so on one of those, we're going to say, if you got approved for a blue house at one point, now we're saying you have to you got to get approval to paint it blue again. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
And what was the previous fine for beginning construction? I remember reading something on it, maybe a management report, but now are we upping it to 500?
That language existed in section 8 under fines. However, Randy, I think you're still there. Under 200.07, you were using a different fine structure. And we had some instances here recently where individuals wanted to not wait for the Architectural Control Committee to review their plans. So they said, we're going to go ahead and start without a permit because we'll just put a fine. And the fine was considered nominal by them. So they just went ahead. However, there was always been that section 8 under the fine structure that could have been used, but instead we'd been using, I think the past precedent was to use 200.07. Randy, are you there anywhere?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Basically, the fine was equal to the cost of the permit. So basically, you just had to double the permit cost. For one instance, a guy was going to build a deck. The permit was only $50, so the fine was an additional $50. So he didn't scoff at that at all. We went ahead and started.
Yeah, what concerns me about that, the way the old rule is that you could just start even if your plans for what you're going to build didn't really comply. And we're kind of playing catch up at that point if I'm on the ACC, right?
Right.
So if somebody starts building a deck, we're going to build them ahead of being approved. It's going to be a $500 fine. That's. Did I get that correctly?
If they begin without an approved permit, it's a maximum fine of $500 per month. That's a maximum fine, not a minimum fine. So conceivably, the language gives latitude for it to be less than that. But it doesn't say it can only be, $50.
Okay. Under the covered wharfs, may not extend beyond the edge of the wharf. I assume that's in response to one of the wharf decks that seems a little larger than most on the Lake of Four Seasons.
According to, and you may have a better memory than I on this, Randy, but the concern has been the ceiling, if you, for lack of a better term, the tops of these wharves that have ceilings extending out into the lake beyond the footprint of the deck of the dock.
That's correct.
Okay, so our problem is, I think we've got 18 foot, I believe, off the shoreline, and they've been extending beyond 18 foot. Is that the issue?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm fine with these.
Yeah, there's no limitation right now on the roof. So, I mean, the dock is 18, but you could build a 40-foot roof and it wouldn't be illegal by our rules. So this way it sort of defines it a little better.
Now,
And the $500 fine for, scoffing at the building permits, that's not even a change. That's already in the rules. It's up to 500, so that's already there, so.
Okay.
All right. Have we had these posted in the Echo yet? Or do we need to do that yet?
they need to go in the Echo.
Okay. Are you making a motion that we approve these to publish them in the Echo?
I am making that motion, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I couldn't tell who seconded, but thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I had a question before we went to the vote. Are we just approving to put them in the Echo, or are we voting to approve them as rules?
I think we have to we've taken a position that rule changes that we're putting them in the Echo. And then if we don't get any unless there's some appeal to that, it doesn't have any sense, then we confirm them at the next meeting.
So we're not confirming them as rules now, because I think I need some time to, look this over, and I don't see the rush to do it when we don't even have a real meeting. I don't mind them going into the Echo, but I don't want to be voting yes that they're permanent rules.
Yes, I can live with that. That's no problem.
Okay, then my vote is yes as well.
Okay. All right. let's move on then. If Randy would get that to Ginger so so they can do that. No. Annie, do we have any new members this month?
Yes, we do. We have quite a few. We have John C. and Deborah A. Whitting, lots 917 and 918. HTE Housing LLC and Amy Kelly, lots 2036, 2037, 2038. Steve and Karen Walter, lots 1639, 1640, and 1641. Dave S. and Christy D. Parker, lots 1956, 1957, 1958. Karen and Michael Brogan, lots 1006 and 1007. John M. and Donna J. Nolan, lots 1970 and 1971. Christopher and Amy Colgan, lots 400 and 401. Nicholas F. and Lori Mutzel, lots 659, 660. Eric R. Christy L. Whitlock, lots 1997 and 1998. Ron B. Street, lots 1767, 1768, and 1769. Gary L. and Karen J. Hovis, lots 388 and 389. Stephen L. Wolford, lot 5. Boone K. and J. K. Humphreys Sabine, lots 1200, 1201, and 1202. And Melinda Starcher, lot 277. The motion that we accept these members.
Second.
Second by Eric. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I didn't get a, how many was that?
Let me pull back up.
Like 15? Jeez.
12, 13. 14.
Nice.
Excellent.
For 2 months, February, March, and April through now.
So good.
Yep, it is good. Absolutely. That being the end of the new members, do we have any additional business? Seeing no additional business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Annie and Mary Beth, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? All right, folks, thanks. This is my favorite way to do a meeting, but it worked. Thanks for everybody's patience and being polite, and it worked out pretty well. Thanks a lot.
Stay safe.
To adjourn at 8:54 p.m.
Very good. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Bye.